This lecture is on how we use technology for information and communication. These are the key ideas that we're going to look at in the lecture. We're going to look at global ICTs. We're going to look at technology in information ecologies. We're going to have a look at inquiry and investigation and how we apply this to technology. And then we're going to finish by looking at technological tools for information and communication. Let's firstly look at this term ICTs by looking at global information communication technologies. So ICTs stands for Information and Communication Technologies. And when we refer to this term, we think about unified communications. And this is the integration of real-time communication services. For example, instant messaging through online chat, telephony, video conferencing, data sharing, including interactive whiteboards or IWBs, and real-time communication services such as unified messaging using voicemail, email, SMS or fax. And unified communications is not one product, but it's a large range of products which serve as the interface that can be used across numerous devices. Telecommunications is another key aspect of ICTs, and this is the telephone communications and wireless signals. Computers and software are another aspect of ICTs, and this is any type of computer device, laptop or desktop, and the enterprise software or the enterprise application software, which is the software used in organizations as opposed to softwares used by individuals. And enterprise software is necessary for information storage and for system organization, whereas middleware software is computer software that provides a service beyond the basic operating system. And application software is all of the computer software that uses a computer to perform specific tasks beyond running the computer itself. Then audiovisual systems are a final component of ICTs, and this is sound and visual components presented as films, television presentations, podcasts, electronic presentations. And all of these aspects of ICTs work collectively to access, store, transmit and manipulate information. So let's look at the patterns of ICTs and their usage. So let's start with the history. The terminology of ICT has been used by academics since the 1980s, but it was used in a UK government report by Dennis Stevenson in 1997, and this is what made the term ICTs more popular. And then it was also incorporated into the national curriculum in England, Wales and Northern Ireland in 2000, which also helped the take-up of this term ICT. Now, the patterns of ICT have changed over time due to the capacity. And the capacity is the ability to store and harness information, which has grown dramatically over time. And we measure capacity by exabytes. Now, a byte is a unit of measurement for digital information. Just as we might use centimetres or metres for measuring distance, a byte is the unit of measurement for digital information. And they progress in size from megabytes to gigabytes, terabytes, petabytes and exabytes. And 1 exabyte is equal to a quintillion bytes, which is a million is 10 to the power 6, a quintillion is 10 to the power 18. So in 1986, the world's capacity to store information was approximately 2.6 exabytes, and this was optimally compressed. In 1993, it grew to 15.8 exabytes. In 2000, it reached 54.5 exabytes. Then in 2007, it reached 295 exabytes, which is equivalent to 404 billion CD-ROMs. So similarly, the capacity to receive information and exchange information and commute information has also dramatically increased as the capacity to store information has grown. Let's consider how this growth of ICTs, the capacity that has grown over history, has affected the cost. The cost of IT worldwide was recently estimated to be about $3.5 trillion and is growing at 5% per annum. And for many companies, the cost of IT can be up to 75% of recurrent costs. And these costs include personnel, software, hardware, and external service providers. Let's now look at technology in information ecologies, based on an article written by Nardi and O'Day entitled Information Ecology, Using Technology with Heart. This quote really does summarise the main idea of the article. Technologies are carefully integrated into existing habits and practice, according to the value of the information ecology. So the authors defined ecologies as being systems of people, practices, values, and technologies in the environment. And so an information ecology focuses on human activity that is served by technology. So for example, a library is an information ecology because books, films, DVDs, magazines, and search systems are provided in order to assist finding what information you require. Similarly, a travel agent is an information ecology, where human expertise, judgment, technology focused on providing information about travel destinations, tours, cruises, and flights can be provided. An accounting firm is also an information ecology, where experts are located that can be experts in tax and finance, and technology is used for communication with clients and others within the firm across the world. So in all of these settings, humans are helping other humans through their use of technologies. In fact, these information ecologies would not exist to the same capacity without the technology. The technologies are carefully integrated into the habits and practice according to the values of the information ecologies. Let's look at 5 characteristics of information ecologies which are highly dependent on technology. The first characteristic is system. Information ecologies have strong interrelationships and dependencies upon different parts, and these parts all fit together in complementary ways. Therefore, change in an ecology is systematic. When one element is changed, effects can be felt throughout the whole world. For example, an introduction to a new online communication system will have a ripple effect in the relationships and culture within an organisation. So a new online communication system, a new technology, has great effect on the system of the information ecology. The next characteristic is diversity, and diversity refers to different ecological niches which provide opportunity for growth and success, and these niches may have different roles and functions. In an information ecology, different people have areas of knowledge which work together in complementary ways. And technological diversity can be seen in the variety of software used on a computer to perform different functions, or the different Web 2 tools utilised by a teacher in their classroom, or the range of social media networks that can be used by educators to network and to communicate. So here we see diversity in information ecologies largely provided by the diversity of technology. The next characteristic is coevolution, and a healthy ecology is not static or even at an equilibrium. It is able to adapt to change. The pace of new technology at a school is an evolving information ecology. The pace of new technology development means that schools will always be moving towards new tools, and therefore staff and students need to be willing to participate and evolve with these new technologies as part of their information ecology. As the internet changes, this has and will continue to have a ripple effect on schools and classrooms. So technology causes co-evolution in all information ecologies, particularly in classrooms. The next characteristic is keystone species, and a keystone species is a presence which is crucial to the survival of the ecology. When we add technology to our own information ecologies, if we cannot work in absence of this essential keystone species. However, keystone species are the skilled people whose presence is necessary to introduce and implement the effective use of the technology. So mediators are keystone species who will help build bridges and to translate information across different disciplines. And their contributions may not officially be recognised. However, the success of new tools is dependent on these mediators. And then the final characteristic of an information ecology is locality. And this is where becoming an active participant in technological change is grounded in a local setting. We do not refer to technology only by what it is called, but also what it means to those who use it. Therefore, computers are set up with the specific software that is necessary for their locality function. For example, the library, office, an infant's or a primary classroom. They all have specific software that are necessary for their locality function. And only the participants in an information ecology can truly establish and identify the place for which the technology will be used. We all have very specific knowledge located to our locality, which informs our decisions, knowledge, and influence. And so those who are immersed in a particular information ecology, such as a school or a department, a specialised staff, they all provide local habitation and therefore locality for new technologies. So why use this term information ecologies? Well, ecology implies continual evolution. It creates a sense of change and urgency, that there is an urgency to take control of information ecologies which we're involved with, and then fill them with our own needs and values so that technological tools can become useful and helpful for the ecology. Adapting to and incorporating technological development into your ecology requires creating local habitation for the technologies that we use. And we should not be resistant towards technology. Instead, we need to engage and participate in our information ecology. The technology really should fit in the information ecology as defined by its members, and this prevents the use of technology purely for technology's sake. Instead, the technology has a real sense of purpose and use. And healthy information ecologies take time to grow. Information ecology begins with our influence to shape the direction of technologies that we use and the settings in which we use them. Let's look at the inquiry and investigation approach as supported by the Australian Government Quality Teaching Program and how this can be applied to the way that we teach using technologies. So the inquiry and investigative approach is really based on inquiry learning, and it allows students to question. Their questions are to become the focus for the student-planned investigations and the basis for developing explanations. And students can then communicate their learning using multimodal presentations. And these representations are then monitored by teachers to provide feedback and reflection for further learning. The inquiry process, therefore, is conducted in small groups which adopt cooperative learning strategies. The inquiry-based learning method assists students to engage with technology information and communication in a very thoughtful and exploratory manner. And the investigation and question for information, the students then use this method of communication in a thoughtful way based on questioning and discussion, planned investigation, and then effective presentation. These are the 5 E's, the different stages of using teaching through an inquiry-based methodology. The first is engage, and this is where we're sparking the interest and the curiosity within the students. Students are raising questions for inquiry and investigation. They see opportunities to express their prior knowledge, and then the teacher considers possible learning experiences from this initial engagement. The next stage is to explore, and this is a hand-on experience where students are collecting and discussing ideas. Students will explore their ideas, discuss observations, and record their reflections, for example through blogging. And then this phase provides a shared experience that can be discussed in the explain phase. So the next phase is to explain, and this is where students identify patterns and develop explanations. They develop a deepening of their own understanding, and they also develop representations of their own learning. The next phase is to elaborate, and this is where students plan and conduct open investigations, and then they report on their findings. The final stage of the 5 E's is to evaluate, and this is where students are encouraged to reflect on the learning journey. They're to use evidence from the lesson to extend the extent of their learning. Now here is an example of the application of the 5 E's on a series of lessons on the Galapagos turtle. So the first stage to engage, students watched different videos on the Galapagos turtle, and they began to become exposed to the unique adaptation of the saddleback shell. They then discussed the videos, raising prior knowledge and posing questions for their investigation. The next step was to explore, and this is where students conducted research on the Galapagos turtle using websites and videos and articles, as well as connecting with field experts. They then recorded their observations in a group blog, and then they reflected on each other's posts to create a shared learning experience. The next phase to explain, students created a clay animation using 2 apps, iMotion HD and iMovie. And then the animation enabled them to demonstrate the adaptation of the saddleback shell, and also included an audio commentary explaining the reason for this adaptation. The next stage was to elaborate, and this is where students had to select a different type of turtle and to inquire and investigate the specific role and function of its shell. Then finally, students had to evaluate. They recorded one another in an interview style in order to reflect on their learning. So let's have a look at a student work sample for these 5 E's applied to the Galapagos turtle, as well as the recorded interview as an evaluation and reflection tool at the end of the learning.
The Galapagos Tortoise by Charlie and Christopher. This is our animation. There are 2 types of turtles, dome turtle and saddleback.
The saddleback turtle has a long neck and a high shell. This allows it to reach for food high up in the air.
There are 3 kinds of Galapagos turtles: saddleback, dome, and intermediate.
Like the Galapagos turtle adapts by growing a long neck or by not to survive.
I enjoyed making the Galapagos turtle. largest turtle came from South America to Galapagos Island. The saddleback turtle lives in very dry environments, so he has to extend his neck and feet to reach his food.
To conclude this lecture, let us look briefly at technological tools that are used for information and communication. Firstly, let's look at technology for information, particularly applied to the classroom and our students. Now, there are many tools that students can use to gather information effectively. And the tools presented here are certainly not exhaustive, but they are a good start for all teachers. The first one is Instagrok, which is in the top left-hand corner of your screen. To grok means to understand thoroughly and intuitively. And so Instagrok is an educational search engine which only uses educationally sound resources. And you can adjust the level of difficulty of the research by using the slide bar at the top of the page. So here you can differentiate the research in order to accommodate the different learning needs in your class. So Instagrok is a way of conducting research online, and it's using a mind map to display key concepts. And this is best done when you have signed in with a personal account to document your search history. Email verification is not necessary for students to have an Instagrok account, so it's a very easy tool to sign up to. So students begin by searching with a key idea or a key term, and this develops a mind map of related concepts. Then there is also a More tab where they can access websites and images, videos and definitions related to the topic. And these are all collated from educationally sound resources. For example, most of the videos are produced by BBC. Then when you click on a word in the mind map, it changes the content and filters out the material that only contains the central idea and then the secondary idea that you have clicked on. And then if you like a particular resource, for example a website or a video, you can pin this to your grok. And this collates your research all together in your journal. And this is the second tab at the top of the screen. And so it collates all the pinned material that students have looked through and then provides a very nice summary of the research for students to use in further task creation. Now, there are also a number of online encyclopedias that are particularly useful for students as the material is tailored for their learning. For example, Britannica has a whole site dedicated just for kids, Britannica for Kids. Simple English Wikipedia is also a very helpful website as it uses slightly more manageable language for younger students. And then kidsnet.au is another wonderful encyclopedia for research and exploration. So these are just some examples of how we can use technology for information. Now, probably the most commonly used tool by your students in order to use technology for information would be Google. And I just want to point out a way in which you can tailor Google to better help your students in their search for information. So a broad Google search can be very overwhelming for students. They receive a large amount of websites and data, and they need to be proficient at using key terms to search topics effectively. And this itself is a skill that needs to be taught explicitly to the students. But students also should be taught how to refine the search. So if you click on the Search Tools tab on the right-hand side of the search bar, there is another toolbar that appears underneath that says More. And when you click on the More tab, you can refine the Google search by a number of different means, but the most helpful that you will use might be the reading level. And so here you can sort all of the information collated by Google into different reading levels, basic, intermediate, and advanced. And this is a very helpful tool for students to use this technology effectively for information. Now, teaching students safe online communication is critical, and there are a broad range of communication technologies which are used in schools presently. And it's easy to underestimate the capacity and impact of how students communicate online using digital technologies. Sharing of information through social networking and broadcasting technologies means that a vast number of people can access information very easily. And so students need to engage with the idea of their digital footprint and the fact that they need to be digital citizens which have thoughtful habits which are safe in the way that they communicate online. Now, there are a number of resources that have been developed which can support teachers in engaging with this idea of a positive digital footprint. So for younger children, for infants, Cyber Smart Young Kids is a website that has wonderful different activities from Zippity's Circus. Then for stage 1 for Cyber Smart Young Kids, there's also Hector's World, which provides resources on personal information online, cyberbullying and computer security. For stage 2, Brain Pop has a number of videos on internet safety, safe use of emails, blogs and photos. And also Cyber Smart Kids has different topics such as digital footprint, netiquette, mobile phones and playing online games. Then there's also the Buddy website, and this has fantastic interactive material on public and private online security, passwords, ownership of content and cyber safety. Then for stage 3, there's a great app that looks at bullying broadly and then cyberbullying more specifically, called Take a Stand Together. There's also CyberQual, a website that looks at cyber content, cyber communication and cyber publishing. And then at the upper end of stage 3, the Think You Know material is a wonderful tool for students to be aware of their safety in online chat rooms. And Cyber Smart Teens also has some great resources for social networking, gaming addiction and chatting online. And these different resources really need to be developed into a scope and sequence at your school so that they can be taught hand in hand with lessons that engage with technology for information and communication. Now let's look at the range of technologies that are used for communication. Now I have got 6 here that we'll look at, but there is a plethora of technologies that are used for communication, and these are constantly evolving. So the first one is Skype, and Skype allows communication by voice using a microphone or video using a webcam, and also instant messaging over the internet. And calls to other users within Skype are free of charge. However, you can also make calls from Skype to landlines and mobiles, and these are charged at a fee. Then we have email. Electronic mail is the full term, and this is a method for exchanging digital messages from one author to one or to a group of recipients. And modern email works across the internet or other computer networks. It depends on the email servers, and these accept, forward, deliver and store messages so that users and their computers don't need to be online simultaneously. They only need to connect briefly using the email server. And there are different email systems. The most common that you'll probably come across will be Gmail, Outlook and Hotmail. The next technology for communication is Facebook, and this is an online social networking site. It was founded in 2004 by Mark Zuckerberg with his colleague and roommates and fellow students. And membership was originally limited to Harvard students, but then expanded to other universities. And so now it allows membership for anyone who is 13 years or over. The users create a personal profile, they add friends, they exchange messages and receive automatic notifications when their friends update their profile. And you can also join groups of common interests such as school or workplace. Then we have Instagram. This is an online sharing and video sharing social network service, and users take pictures and then apply digital filters and then can share these with other social networking sites such as Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr and Flickr. The photos are all cropped to a square shape similar to a Polaroid image. And like Facebook, this is open to users that are 13 years or older. Then we have Kik, and this is an instant messaging app for mobile devices, and it's available on iOS, Android, Windows, and BlackBerry. And it uses the smartphone's data or Wi-Fi in order to connect and receive messages. It's a fast and free text messaging service where you can share photos, voice messages, and other content. And then the last technology for communication that we will look at is Twitter. And this is an online social networking service and microblogging service. And users send and receive text-based messages which are up to 140 characters, known as tweets. Unregistered users can read tweets, but only registered users can post tweets. Now, by default, your tweets are visibly public, but you can change this setting to be only visible to your followers. Users subscribe to other users to receive tweets, and this is known as following. So if you subscribe to another user, you'll receive their tweets, and so you're following them. And those who subscribe to you are known as your followers. All of these forms of online communication are free and are used by millions of users daily in the workplace and socially. And much of advertising and publicity is now done through these communication tools. As educators, these communication tools are incredibly useful for connecting with other educators and also being exposed to the ideas of other innovative teachers worldwide. So I hope this lecture has broadened your understanding of technology for information and communication, giving you a framework for the term ICTs, then understanding how ICTs are integral parts of information ecologies, understanding the process of inquiry and investigation using the 5 E's and how that applies to technology, and then briefly overviewing a number of tools that can be used for gathering information and for communication.